Я бачу, ви ще поки приєднуєтеся. Як у вас справи? Звідки ви до нас приєдналися? Напишіть у коментарях. Ми сьогодні зустрічаємося на фінальному вебінарі з Canva. Це дуже сумно, але до того в нас був цілий місяць вебінарів з ними. Тому я дуже цьому рада. Я рада тому, що ви також приєдналися. Вебінари були дуже корисні, судячи з вашого фідбеку. Сьогодні в нас також буде дуже цікава тема і дуже корисна. Будемо говорити про те, як успішно шукати роботу. Canva буде відповідати на ваші запитання, буде розповідати матеріал. Ви не соромтесь, можете писати запитання у чаті або можете писати їх у секції Q&A. Вони будуть там все відповідати. І я думаю, що я вже тоді буду їм передавати слово, якщо можна. Так. Okay, just did a very small intro. Thanked everybody for coming once again for the final webinar with GoodJob and Canva. I can't believe it's been a month. We're incredibly happy to have this, and we're very incredibly happy to have all of you join. So thank you so much for watching either live or on record. I will be handing the word to our partners in Canva, and I think they will take it from there. So I will be passing on the word to Aaron. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dana, for the intro. And a massive thank you to everyone here for joining us today for our fifth and final webinar in our Job Seeker Master Series with GoodJob. We've really loved getting to spend time with you each week this month. Some of you may have joined us previously for our CV, PVP, video cover letter, or interview masterclasses. If you weren't able to make it, I definitely recommend going back to watch the recordings. So if you're joining us again, welcome back. And if you're here for the first time, nice to meet you. Really keen to know where you're joining from. I see that some people have already put in the chat, joining from Marbella, Spain, and Kiev, and Germany. But yeah, definitely keen to see where everyone's joining us from. So if you wouldn't mind putting that in the chat, that would be awesome. Switzerland as well, cool. Kiev, awesome. Cool, there's quite a few in Kiev. Awesome. So as an introduction, my name is Aaron and I'm part of the talent acquisition team here at Canva. So we've been working really closely with our friends at GoodJob to pull together this masterclass series to share with you all. So coming up, my teammate Natalіа and I will be sharing a deep dive session on our top tips and tricks to master your job search. You'll also be joined by my teammates Michael, Teus, and Chelsea in the chat and the Q&A. So feel free to send through any questions in the Zoom Q&A and we'll do our best to answer them. Please just make sure that you're putting your questions in the Q&A and not the chat, as we may miss some questions if they do come through the chat. We really hope that this month of masterclasses have made you feel empowered to confidently tackle your job search. We know many of you are searching for new roles in new countries, new industries, and new cultures, and that can be pretty intimidating and overwhelming at the best of times. Like billions of people around the world, we're shocked and heartbroken to see the continued war crimes and the loss of thousands of innocent lives as Russia continues its illegal war in Ukraine. We stand vehemently opposed to the Russian government's continued acts of aggression, and we're committed to standing for peace and safety everywhere. A few months ago, our talent acquisition team started brainstorming ways we could support the Ukrainian job seeker community during this challenging time. It was then that we met our friends at GoodJob and an amazing partnership was born. It really does mean the world to us to be able to show our support for Ukraine and work with a truly incredible team to provide these resources to you all. While a lot of you may know who Canva are, especially if you've joined us for our previous webinars, some of you may not be as familiar with us. So let's do a quick recap and intro to Canva. We are a visual communications platform with a mission to empower the world to design. Our goal is to make design accessible to anyone, anywhere, to create anything they like. So at Canva, we're a values-driven company, and these values on your screens are the lifeblood of every decision that we make, including how we interact with the world. We're an Australian-based company with offices and amazing team members all around the world, including the United States, Philippines, China, the UK, and Europe. We've experienced enormous ongoing growth as a former startup, Our platform is used in 190 countries, spanning over 100 languages, with approximately 180 creations being made in Canva every second, which is crazy. These designs include some awesome CVs, mind maps, videos, and other tools to help you with your job search. So what is on the agenda for today? So our goal for today's session is to empower everyone on the call to use job seeking platforms effectively, whilst giving you the tools to leverage your network and make your application stand out amongst your peers. Let's have a quick look at what you can expect. So we'll be covering the platforms you're able to use to find your next role, how you can best use the search functionality to find the right role, who can help you along the way in your job search, and how to really go the extra mile to make you stand out for the crowd. With that in mind, let's start off with a bit of an activity. So how do you start looking for a job? I know this may differ depending on get a sense of where you'd start as a job seeker. Feel free to put your responses in the chat now. Yep, LinkedIn, awesome. Google, cool, LinkedIn. I'm glad someone said Google because we're actually covering a section on Google searching a little bit later. So that's awesome. Good job. It's great. Indeed, Glassdoor, perfect. Some really cool places to start in there.
Amazing.
Awesome. So I'll now throw it over to Nat, who will take you through the first part. So where do I search?
Amazing. Thank you so much, Aaron, and thank you so much for your amazing answers. Definitely, we're going to start with where to search. I think that was a good actually starting point because as Aaron mentioned, we will be talking about those platforms. So one of the most common places to start your job search actually is the different job boards, like regional ones, different for every single country. But one that we actually really suggest using is LinkedIn. So really glad that you mentioned because it's really important to learn a little bit of how we can use LinkedIn to search. So as you can see in the examples, we're trying with marketing. So marketing, once we actually put in the search marketing and then the location, in this case, we're using Poland. You can see how the different jobs start coming up. So different roles, and that actually could help you and that give you an idea of the different companies that you can find in these countries. They also give you an idea of the different roles within marketing. So really suggest actually to use it. Another really good way to start searching for jobs is Google. I know many of you mentioned Google. It's really good way to start actually a wider net search. So what you can do, similar to what we did with LinkedIn, is looking for that specific industry or a specific area that you would like to search for. So in this case, we're trying with like market manager as well, like a marketing role in Italy. So you can see as well how that coming up, different job boards, like more specific to the country. In this case, if you're not too familiar with the different like specific areas, how you can, companies or how you can search for jobs, this is a good way to start your search. Another good way is social media. As you can see, sometimes actually we don't really think of social media as a great way to look for jobs, but Facebook, for example, can help you a lot. When I moved to Australia and actually originally from Colombia, that's my first area to start looking for jobs. So what I did, actually, I'm start looking for like different communities, different groups, different pages that I could follow. So in that case, one of my go-to was actually Latin Americans in Australia. I also did with Colombians in Sydney. And what I did is actually I started finding many jobs, many specific jobs, and that gave me really good insights into the market. So I really would like to know in the chat if you had used social media to look for jobs, if you think that's something actually in the country that you are is really popular or something that you don't see that much, but we would love to hear more about you on that. You know, there are many different platforms for social media. You have WhatsApp, you have Instagram, Telegram, they also like TikTok. So all of them, they can help you in a different ways. So I would really suggest you to start thinking about, like, in the country that you are, or in the area that you are, what are the most common ones, how they use it. Many of the small businesses, actually, they use Instagram. So if you're thinking about getting maybe into beauty industry or into more small businesses, that could be a really good way to start your search. Think about the different hashtags. So for example, like we are hiring or looking for new team members. So all these hashtags can help you to start thinking what they're looking for in the next group. I really like dogs, and actually I follow many small businesses that look after dogs, and I find that as a really good way to look for jobs. So all depends on how actually you can get outside the box and start thinking about different opportunities. And if you really love a small business, that actually could be a really good way to start interacting with them. Another one that sometimes we tend to actually forget because we're thinking about this digital age and we don't really look much into in-person possibilities. So actually it's thinking about physical job boards, newspaper, go around your shopping centers in the town that you are. Think about like if you see any advertisements on the windows. So actually one of the ways how I got into my first job in Australia, that was really challenging for me. It took about almost 1 to 2 months to get into my first job because I didn't have English, my first language is Spanish. So I was learning so many things at that stage and also learning about the market. I didn't know much about the market, and that was one of the main areas I knew I needed to get more into. So one of the things that I found out is actually I could have started with hospitality or retail or something with customer service. Even though I have my experience back in Colombia, in universities, I knew it will be really hard to try to get into that market straight away. So looking into that, I found out that it was actually a restaurant opening really close where I was living. That was a Mexican restaurant. So what I did is actually I decided to go into the opening day. And then they were doing like this big opening, giving free food. So you can imagine thousands of people actually in there. But then what I did is actually while I was waiting for my burrito, and then the person who handed out to me the burrito, I asked them if they were looking for any new staff. And then I was really lucky that that person was the manager of the store. So he asked me to go the next day for an interview. I did it. And that's how I got my first job. Actually, I worked there for more than 3 years and gave me really, really great experiences. I really would love to, listen from you if you have similar stories or similar situations when you can try something different, a little bit more challenging. Sometimes could be a little bit nerve-wracking if it's not your language, but it's really something that will be worth it. So over to you, Aaron. Maybe you can help us on what else we can do, how to do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Now it's an awesome story as well to share. Now that we know where we can search for roles, let's talk about how we can best optimize our search when we do start using the platforms. So if we really refine our search, it gives us the best chance of being able to find a role that's best suited to our skills and experience. Given there are often so many adverts out there, let's check out a few ways that we can cut through the traffic and use these tools to actually filter down and see which role is going to be best for you. Before you even start searching, it's just really important to think about the answers to these questions. It's going to really help you narrow down some of the search fields that we will use. So we'll go through some of these in more detail shortly, but those are basically the categories that you have to think about beforehand. Cool. Boolean searching. As a recruiter, I use this all the time. Some of you may or may not be familiar with Boolean searching, but it's such an awesome way to filter. And it looks super complicated, but it's really simple. So you're probably wondering how recruiters find you on LinkedIn and how they're always getting in touch, or how they have got in touch in the past. Well, we'd like to let you in a little recruiter secret. So it's all in the Boolean search. The Boolean search actually allows you to harness the power of the internet to find relevant information and insights. So breaking that down in simple terms, it's a technique which allows you to combine keywords relating to your dream job using conjunctions. So you could even find opportunities you never even thought of by using this technique as well. So using a Boolean search can help you be more efficient when searching for jobs. It can help you find the results that closely match your interests and requirements and removes the search results that don't align to what you're looking for. So it really saves you time as well. Cool. So as you'll see, we use these 3 conjunctions to help us search for roles the same way a recruiter uses it to search for a candidate. So the first one we've got is and. So placing and between search keywords means that the result will include both or all of the keywords. Using or, so or allows you to search for something that has the possibility of including either of the keywords. All combination possibilities will come up as well. using the term not. So this is how you refine as well. So using the term not after a search term when you don't want that specific search term to appear in the results. So the brackets allows for separation. This will all make perfect sense in a sec. Awesome. Before we start Boolean searching, let's make some lists. So the best piece of advice we can give is to come really prepared with lists that can form the basis of your search. So the more preparation you do, the more information you have, the easier it's going to be to actually search via Boolean search as well. So first of all, create a list of job titles that you would like to search for and think about all the possible titles for this position. Some of them have some really weird and wonderful names. So if you include every job title that's even outside the box, it may actually help to capture some roles that have the transferable skills that you have as well. As I said, there's so many variations for job titles in the market. So best to think of every possible solution and then you'll really cover all your bases as well. Next, do some research and create a list of companies that you'd love to work for. That could be a values alignment. It could be a really cool product. It could be anything. It could be, you know, a company your friend works for that you've heard great things about. It could be, you know, any number of things. So the next thing is to think of a number of common job sites that you'd like to target. So I think we've covered a few in terms of LinkedIn and Indeed and other job sites. LinkedIn not so relevant to this particular Boolean search if we're putting it into Google, but still quite relevant in the grand scheme of things as well. Then think about the locations you'd like to work in. So you can include different states. You can even be as specific as different cities as well. Once you've actually got all of those categories sorted, it's then you've got you know, all your ingredients to start building out your Boolean string. Okay. Again, looks more complicated than it actually is, but let's go through the first example and I'll really break it down. So in simple terms, this person here is looking for a job on Indeed.com with the terms office administrator or senior office administrator or administrative assistant. And the company they're wanting to look for is Canva or Google or ASOS, and the location's Australia. So you can see there you've got the job board, you've got the job titles, you've got the companies, and you've got the location. So the brackets are actually a separation tool, and you're able to really easily bring up every search result that's going to relate to any one of those terms or how you've actually pieced it together. So this is a really good reference to come back to if you are stuck. Cool. This is a short video on just how a Boolean search works in Google. You can see there that the string starting to come together with the conjunctions in there. And I actually didn't know this myself until a few weeks ago. So this is a really cool piece of information to try. And as you can see there, it's bringing up Google results of all the platforms that match the search. So you don't have to spend time going through individual job boards and going through sort of, you know, different platforms. You can see that it's actually pulled up the LinkedIn app there. So that's really cool. Awesome.
Amazing. So that was really, really insightful, Aaron. That was amazing. I didn't know as well myself. I think I just learned by doing this webinar. This is how I learned much. So it's really good, but now that you have learned and we share a little secret with all of you, so it's really now your turn to start optimizing your search. Let's see how you can use different fields to discover roles that may appeal to you. Because one of the tricky parts here is actually maybe thinking about what is the role for you. So sometimes if you're not too sure about the exact job title, as many countries, sometimes you think, okay, this is my role, this is what I used to do. But in a different country, in a different city, they may call totally different that role. So I will suggest to start thinking about some alternative search fields. So some of them could include, for example, skills. So try to think about a hard skill. So let's say Python or Power BI. So they are really, really good things to start looking. When you start searching for those hard skills, they may come up many different roles. So that's a really good way because maybe all those roles have that skill requirement. So your searches are getting actually bigger and wider. So that's a really good way to do it. You can also think about the industry. So let's see the example that we used before for marketing. Do you remember how when we put on actually marketing, there were many different roles coming up? So with that already, we start actually learning more about the different groups, the different sub-industries that actually could be within that specific one that we're thinking. So the wider that you go, the better, because you will start learning more about the labor market that we don't have that much knowledge. Then you can think about the location, and that actually could be, again, like really wider if you want to think about, you know, like the country, local town, different states, or even now that actually one thing that happened with COVID is like we are allowed to actually have many remote works. So try to think about that option as well if you're really keen for that. Also about the level. So I work with interns and graduates. That's pretty much my area. So if you really want to start thinking about those early like careers that starting your careers, you can start looking for internship, graduate roles. There will be many of them, they're really general. So that will help you to give you an idea. You can also start thinking about those mid-senior level management roles, or if you're actually looking for more senior levels or leadership roles, you can also try that. And finally, some keywords. So for me personally, it was really difficult trying to think about education itself, because I feel that in different countries a little bit different as well. So when I start looking for those jobs within universities that I wanted at the beginning of my career here in Australia, my first way to go was actually higher education. That's how I start actually looking into more jobs. So think about that, those keywords that maybe you know your industry could be there, maybe the industry doesn't really exist in that new country, but that will give you a better idea of the labor market again. So now that we have learned about like where to search, what to search, and how to search, we really want to move into what to do when you have found your dream job. So we don't really want you to start, oh my God, I have all these amazing opportunities. I have more than 100. So I'm just going to apply to all of them because I know they're all amazing. So that's the first thing that we don't really want you to do. We really want to share with you tips on how to evaluate those opportunities to increase the responses from your applications. So as actually recruiters, we do receive more than 100 of applications for every single job. So you really want you to start actually thinking about your applications with quality and not about quantity. That's more important. So try to get a little bit more knowledge of the job descriptions, of the company itself. So really thinking about how you're applying for that job and tailoring your application, and that actually you will have a really big impact. So if you remember, we did have a webinar about how to build your CV at the beginning of the series. So if you haven't watched it, I really suggest you to go and watch it again, because that will give you many insights into how to create actually a really great impression with your CV, how to create a really impactful application. But then what else you can do as well from your end into your research? So things to consider in your research will be the company goals. So if you haven't thought about those different details, actually will be really important to start evaluating your personal goals as well here. So think about how the goals of the company actually help you with your own goals. If you don't see alignment in there, probably that company is not for you, because it's not really helping you to develop yourself in the way that you want to. Other thing that is really important is about the industry. What's happening with that industry? Some industries that we have today didn't even exist, I think, 5 years ago. So it's really important to start thinking, what is the future of that industry that you're applying for? Also about the company. What is the company? What is happening in the market with that company? If you're looking for a long-term career, it's really important that you actually start thinking about those selections from an early stage. And also about the culture. I think one of the things that I loved when I joined Canva was the culture. I think I knew more about the culture than the product, which was really funny, because my first interview, I have to create a Zoom background. I've never used the product, but I love the company. I was really in love with all the values. And one of the ones that really resonated with me was be a good human. And that's what I love. So think about those values that really resonate with you. Actually, the company really aligns on that with you as well. And also the type of jobs. There are different types of jobs nowadays. Is it part-time what you're looking for? Are you looking more into a casual opportunity, looking for a full-time? So try to cover all of these areas before you actually proceed with the application. So the next piece of advice will be to be as creative as possible. again, if you haven't watched those different series of webinars that we actually share with you, it's time to start looking back to all of them, to the cover letter, to CV. Every single actually ingredient that you put into your application will be really important to actually moving into the next step. As I said, you really want to be that star and that standout like person that we want to call for the next stage. So one thing that we wanted to share with you here, and you may think, well, we're sharing planets, and what we're actually thinking about these different things in a job search webinar. But this quick example is actually for one of our engineers who was super creative in his application. So we do look for front-end engineers, and we ask people to have like actually strong visual and technical interests. And this is really hard to engage from just a resume or a website, right? So this engineer was really, really creative in the way that they share their skills. So they have a great idea to create a fun visual product to demonstrate his skills and help him to stand out from the very basic CV and cover letter format. This was really, really useful that our recruiter actually straight away got him to a call and put him forward to the process. So as you can see, there are many different ways. We're not expecting you to build something like that, of course, but we're really thinking, really try to get you think outside the common things. So I remember as well for one of the students, I requested actually video cover letters. And I love actually this student ended up writing a song, and during the video cover letter sang that song to me. So it was really impactful. And there are different ways, you know, if you're a designer, think about the portfolio website, how you creating that first impression. For video introductions, try to go the extra mile in there. So there are some of the examples that we wanted to share with you, but there are many, many different ways that you can be creative. If you want to share in the chat some of the ways that you actually have used before has been really useful, that's really, really great to learn. So, and finally, just like the main takeout here is being your authentic self, right? Like if you're doing your proper search, if you're getting into that, the last thing that actually like for you is to be yourself. And that's what you really want to the role that you apply, being able to be yourself. And don't be afraid to actually be like using all the talents that you have of the great different skills that you have and showcase that with different elements. So I think we almost there with all the ingredients, but I know Aaron have many, many more tips to share with you into the successful job search. So over to you.
Thanks, Nat. So I know what you're all thinking. Let's go ahead and apply for some of those roles. You've got the where, you've got the how, you've got the what, but it's really important now to think who's going to be able to help you in your job search. So it's really important to note that like simply clicking apply to a job ad is not always the best way. It's not always the most effective way to apply for a role. So with so many job seekers in the market for so many different specialties, we need to think about our point of difference or our personal value proposition, which is another one of the webinars that we held. So you'll find that on the YouTube channel. One of the best tricks that we can share today is to follow up with your application with the relevant recruiter or talent acquisition specialist from the company you've applied to. So I'm about to run you through how to increase the response rate of your applications to have a larger amount of overall success from the perspective of a recruiter. So connecting with specialist recruiters on professional platforms give you the best chance for success when it comes to your application. Recruiters are often responsible for screening applications and play a major role in deciding who will progress to interview stage or recruiter screens based on their initial CV review. Forming relationships with recruiters, even following on from an interview process, is a great way to keep an eye on the market and stay up to date with new roles. So many recruiters out there. What is the difference between an internal recruiter and an external recruiter? So as someone who's been both, I can definitely help with this. Let's start with an internal recruiter or talent acquisition partner. So these titles refer to someone who's solely recruiting for a specific company and they're actually integrated into their people team. For example, the team and I on the call here, we work as internal recruiters for Canva. So we only recruit for roles that Canva are hiring for. An external recruiter is slightly different. So an external recruiter refers to people who work for a third-party recruitment agency. So some of the big ones you might have seen are Hayes, Robert Walters, Michael Page, for example, and they recruit for various clients when they require assistance. So they're what is referred to as a consultant and generally work for a commission or a fee, and they charge that to the client. It's actually really good for Canva because They don't charge any fees to candidates. The fees are charged to clients. There are benefits to networking with both categories of recruiters. So, I mean, connecting with an internal recruiter helps to gain a really thorough perspective into the specific company they represent. So for us, really specific insight into Canva. An internal recruiter will also generally have some really strong internal relationships with hiring managers and a level of trust there. A really strategic understanding of upcoming roles that may not have even been advertised yet. So a lot of the time we're having conversations with hiring managers about what's coming up in the future as opposed to what's happening just now as well. Connecting with external recruiters, however, allows you to get a greater understanding of the job market as a whole. So it's not necessarily as specific in one company, but they definitely do have a good perspective on the whole job market. Because external recruiters work for multiple clients, they're able to help with overall salary advice, market overviews, and can act on your behalf when recommending potential client fits. Pro tip, so if you're unsure as to whether someone's an internal recruiter or an external recruiter, check out the company the recruiter works for on LinkedIn. And if it comes up as a staffing agency or a professional services, they're working for a recruitment agency. So as I mentioned, this provides a bit of an overview as to the benefits of connecting with a recruiter, whether they be internal or external to your desired company as well. So intimate knowledge of the industry, strong relationships, salary advice, access to jobs that you may not be able to see. As I mentioned, not every job is actually publicly advertised as well. So definitely good to have that perspective. And a really good recruiter will follow up on your application and gain feedback from that as well. So it'll give you some really good constructive feedback to work on, and you'll be able to take that in your job search as well. Okay, so how can we make an impact when we are connecting with recruiters or hiring managers? Recruiters and hiring managers receive so many messages weekly from job seekers. So let's dive into how we can make your introduction really memorable. First of all, how can we find a talent acquisition partner or recruiter? We're actually not that hard to find. We try to make it as easy as possible for us to be found. I think it's to our benefit, but number one would be research the companies in your industry. So have a list of companies. This comes back to the lists. So have a list of companies. Use the LinkedIn search bar to find the company pages and then click the people link. Once you're there, you'll be able to search in the search bar for titles like recruiter, talent acquisition specialist, head of talent, recruitment consultant, recruitment manager, even HR manager in smaller companies. Usually it is split out, but with smaller companies, someone may be looking after HR and talent acquisition. So you can really use this to your advantage when you're looking into a company. Cool, we've gone onto LinkedIn, we've found who we're looking for, we really want to connect. How do we connect, or what's the best way to connect? So number one is send a connection request with a really short, simple message. You'll notice when you're actually connecting with people on LinkedIn, you have the option to include a short message in that as well. Believe it or not, if you're personalizing your request with a message, you're actually in the top 10% of job seekers. So 90% of people are connecting with recruiters and hiring managers without putting any context in there. A really short message like, hi, I've really enjoyed some of the content you posted last week and would love to connect is a really great way to open the dialogue and establish that initial rapport. So once the recruiter or hiring manager has accepted your request, it's now time to follow up with a more detailed message, including a call to action. A follow-up message is a really great way to establish your PVP or personal value proposition, to showcase your initiative and start to develop a relationship. We'll go through what a good example of a follow-up message looks like shortly. Refining your message. Take your time with these messages. It's really important to get it right as opposed to sort of rushing through and sending hundreds. If you do 10 awesome messages, it's way better than doing 100 brief messages or ones that have errors. So it's really important. So try your best to avoid spelling and grammatical errors where possible. Everyone makes mistakes. I know I certainly do. But however, it can appear to hiring managers that grammatical errors actually show a lack of attention to detail. Using tools like Grammarly is a really good hack. So it really makes sure that all your messages are spot on. So it reads through your message, it suggests grammar, it goes through and picks out spelling mistakes as well. So it's really cool. Really simple, yet it's something that job seekers often forget to attach when approaching a recruiter or hiring manager on LinkedIn. So you're actually able to attach your CV as a file when making the approach, and that gives you some additional context to your skills and experience. The hiring manager then has 3 sources of truth: your LinkedIn approach message, your CV, and your LinkedIn profile, which is hopefully up to date. And I would recommend making it up to date before you did the approach as well. And finally, so establishing a relationship. So unfortunately, many interactions between recruiters and candidates tend to be quite transactional and reactive, which basically means you're only messaging them when you want something. If you change the narrative on these kinds of relationships with recruiters and hiring managers, it can really help to keep you front of mind when the perfect role eventually does come up. Let's take an example of a candidate that had been through an interview process, however was unfortunately unsuccessful at the final stage due to a lack of experience in comparison to a couple of other candidates. When a good recruiter calls to give that feedback and tells the unsuccessful candidate they would love to stay in touch, they genuinely do mean it. So they're definitely wanting to hear about the experience that you gain so that they can stay in touch and then reconnect and hopefully get your role in the future as well. Okay, so this is something that I prepared a little bit earlier. We'll go ahead and break this down to give you a great structure to refer back to and follow when it's time for that follow-up message. So number 1, so using the individual's name to personalize the message. You would be surprised how many times that recruiters or hiring managers are approached, and unfortunately either the name is spelt wrong or it's a copy and paste template and the name is incorrect. It's not a great way to start the message, so definitely making sure the individual's name is personalized to the message. Number 2, so this is something that I love to utilize as well. So leading with a question to really increase the engagement. If your approach is "How are you?" it really gives the person you're approaching something to get engaged with, as opposed to "I hope you're well" or "I hope your Friday's going well," so something like that. So I really like the leading question at the beginning. Cool. So the next paragraph is really tying an element of your PVP into the knowledge you've gained about the company. So as you can see here, this person here has referenced exactly me. So I've actually referenced that I've seen in the news that Canva's launching a new collaboration tool, Canva Teams. I've put in there that I'm a software engineer with so many years experience. And I've actually put in there that I've got experience building business to consumer products and would love to chat further to understand Canva's growth over the next 12 months. So it really gives some context that they understand who I am, what I do, and why I'm interested in the company. The next step is to just build on that. So it's a call to action. This would generally come at the end of your message to wrap it up. So as you can see here, heard some really awesome things about Canva's culture, would love to be a part of it. Might you be free for a Zoom catch up at some stage this week? So it really puts the onus back on the hiring manager as well. It shows some really great initiative that you're wanting to catch up, you're wanting to volunteer your time, and hopefully they feel like you're going to value their time as well. So, and then ending with a thanks so much. So I think that's a really good structure to follow if you are stuck as to what you should say when approaching a hiring manager or a recruiter. I think just including these elements in the message would really go a long way in the beginning. Cool. So my own personal example. So I definitely leverage this. I saw someone put in the Q&A before, how did we get into Canva, or how did we start on our journey here? My journey at Canva definitely started because I had a colleague of mine who I was working with go over to Canva. I knew nothing about Canva, but what I did is I did my research, found out that it was definitely an alignment in terms of values, did all my research, and then I actually reached out to one of the recruiters on LinkedIn. So I just outlined why I'd like to work there and what I really thought was interesting about my research as well. But the example that I'd love to share, because it's a little bit scrappier, a little bit more resourceful, was I was actually working as an external recruiter in an agency. So definitely a really big sales focus, the role. I felt like I could make more of an impact as an internal recruiter. So it was definitely looking around at potential opportunities. And I came across a role on LinkedIn, and I'd actually worked with this company before as an external recruiter. I'd placed someone into a role at this company, and I applied for the role, but I didn't hear anything back. And I found the hiring manager on LinkedIn, and I sent her a connection request. And unfortunately, she didn't accept the connection request. So I'd applied, I'd sent this connection request. I was a little bit stuck as to what to do next. And what I did was I Google searched, what's a typical email address at this specific company, and I guessed the the hiring manager's email address, and I sent a message that outlined, you know, why I wanted to join the company. I actually found that we had a very similar pathway, this hiring manager and myself. So I referenced that we had some things in common, and she got back to me. I went in for an interview and got the role. And when I started the role, I actually said to her, you know, would you mind accepting my friend request now, because, you know, we work together and you're my manager. So yeah, it was scrappy, but I think it's awesome just to try every avenue and try to differentiate yourself. I think just going the extra step can really help you to land a role that you probably wouldn't have got otherwise. And now I'll hand over to Nat for going the extra mile.
No, I think that was amazing. I think that, yeah, the many different ways to try to go into the extra mile. I loved your example, like required to be bold and being creative, like trying to guess the email and all these things, but definitely like it's really worth it, you know, it's really worth it, try to do it. So really, really happy with that. So now that we have covered pretty much everything, we have covered what platforms to apply on, what to search, how to search. We share a little secret there as well. How to who actually to search and how to reach out to those recruiters and different people like within the industry. We really just want to share with you a little bit more extra tips that you can keep actually applying and try to get more confident into that job search, into getting to know the market. So one of the first things is actually try to engage with content. This is a great way to meet and network with people within the same industry through our relevant content. So think of online sites and content related to your industry or where you're trying to get into. So for example, Medium.com, where people actually post industry specific content like well-being, psychology article, business insights, market trends, or sites like, if you are an engineer, maybe try like GitHub or Stack Overflow, which actually engineering specific content, and you can view others people projects and codes, or even just general business content like Crunchbase, Financial Times. So there are hundreds of sites across of all specialties you can actually engage. And you can find more and more relevant connections through that. Another way to do it as well is through podcasts. So, you know, now actually we all using it, and they're really, really great content. They are a really great, good way to learn more about industries, specialties, companies. They could be as broad as you want or as specific as well, depending if you're using all these different topics and trying to use the keywords. So some places that where you can find them actually are Spotify podcasts, iTunes, TED Talks, or SoundCloud. So I really would love if you share with us if you currently, I don't know, loving podcasts and you would like to share with all of us so we can learn a little bit more, and also like everyone in the audience can get some insights of the best actually maybe podcasts. I don't know, are you listening to any at the moment that you would like to share?
Myself? Yeah. I'm listening to, so I recruit for product managers, and I'm listening to a product podcast called Lenny's Newsletter. So that was referred to me by a product manager here at Canva. Really interesting, super interesting. Just has some really cool interviews with product leaders from around the world. So I get to learn about the specialty that I'm recruiting for. And yeah, so I'm loving that at the moment. You?
Like I just getting into that, I have to be honest. It used to be difficult for me to get into podcasts, so it's slowly trying to find the one that I'm loving. So I don't have any to recommend at the moment, but I'm getting into that. It was hard for me. I didn't like it straight away.
Well, I can just see here that Dennis put in the chat that GoodJob actually has a podcast. So I'm definitely going to be getting onto that, and I recommend that everyone do the same. Yes,
great. Thank you so much for sharing, Dana. So also another way to do it is attending meetups. So that's actually really good way to meet new people who share your same interests, or to get into something new as well. If you know you're just trying to get into something and learning more, that's a good way. So you can find either advertise on a specific company website or LinkedIn group, Facebook work groups, or directly through the website. So you can go to meetup.com and search by location. There are more I think think they're in more than 190 countries as well. So you can use keywords. They have online events or in-person events. So they're really, really good way to actually start. And finally, the different networking events. So there are so many depending on the industry, specialties again. So you just have to go and search. Some companies, they do have their own, they're probably hosting or they're sponsoring some. So it will be good to go to the websites and try to search for some. Social media is a really good way as well, a platform to learn more about the different events happening where you live in. And also for any grads and interns, it will be amazing to go to career fairs. Many universities, many actually groups that do career fairs when you can interact with other companies, when you can meet other peers as well. So I really suggest to go and try all these different options. So the main point is, I think throughout here is been saying like, be yourself, don't be afraid to go the extra mile and try to do as much thinking outside the box as possible. So with that, I think we're now moving into questions. So let's see, we're just going into the first one. So Aaron, how do you, there was a question actually that we received, and I would like to know, how do I know if anyone is reading my application after I apply? Is it a machine or something doing that?
Good question, Nat. So I'll give you from the perspective of Canva. So at Canva, we're definitely part of the Circle Back initiative, which means that we vow to, to get back to every candidate, whether it be successful or unsuccessful. But look, a lot of big companies have, a recruitment team that definitely do look at every application. I haven't come across any kind of technology or machines that filter the applications for the recruiters. I think that's that's not super common if it's around. But I think that if you don't receive a confirmation email after you've actually applied, I think definitely follow up with the recruiter, follow up with the hiring managers, do everything you can to take the initiative and make sure that you're visible. Because as you mentioned earlier, Nat, there's hundreds of applications per role sometimes, and it's definitely, it's definitely good to do anything you can to stand out.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that.
Cool. So one for you, Nat. So
Okay.
what platforms can I use to get experience in the new field as an intern?
Great question. I think, yeah, as an intern, that's amazing. That's my area of expertise. So I will say that comes to different countries. So the many local job boards that you can actually try to search and try to see what's happening. Students' job boards, different universities, they will have their own job boards. So try to get a little bit like learning about the different that they're really specific for students. Also, I think company websites and the really good place to go, because the companies actually, they tend to have their specific area in their websites when they talk about students, and they really want to showcase the different programs that they have for the students. So try to go into their websites, learn a little bit more about the different programs that they run. It's not only internships, they could have graduate programs, they could have many different actually versions of this, because again, every single country is different. I did that for Colombia and in Australia now, and they're totally different, the two different words. So I recommend just try to get to know what's happening for the students in your country. And that way you can actually start getting more into the networking, career fairs, LinkedIn, company websites, and yeah, you can learn more about the different programs.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. I have one more for you. So is it best to apply onto the company website or a job board?
So this is interesting because a lot of the time, although the job is advertised on different job boards or websites, they all generally flow through to the one place. So for us, we have ads up on LinkedIn, we've got ads on the company website, we've got ads on Work 180, we've got ads on Indeed at times. So we've got so many different platforms that we advertise on. Generally, they're all flowing through to the one application system. So the recruiters will jump onto a system and it'll show where the application comes from, but they're all the same. So they're not prioritized in terms of, where someone's applied. They all flow through, which is cool. It's probably not necessary to apply on multiple job boards because of that specific feature. So I'd recommend, maybe jumping on the website and having a look at some other information around the company as well. You can really gather a lot by a company's website. So that would be the place I'd probably start. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
Amazing.
Cool. And finally, Nat, is it possible to find an internship if you are not a current student?
I will say yes, it is possible. So internships are not only for students, like pretty much anyone at any age can pursue an internship to help with their career. So some of the career changes, so if you're just starting something new, that could be a great way to actually learn more. So I think the main requirement will be depending on the company. So some companies, they do have a requirement that candidates still actually, they are a current student to be able to apply. And that comes as when some companies will accept a student like any like penultimate year, final year. Others even will receive recent grads as interns. So I would say like just go on, search for companies that you would like to join as an intern and try to find as well the different programs. As I said before, internship is not the only sort of early career stage that you can start. There are others that they just don't have internship roles, but they treat junior roles as interns as well. So try to find the different ways. It's all about understanding how the company works, the different programs, and in that way you can actually find really, really good opportunities, even if you're not a current student. So I hope that actually answered the question.
Perfect. That's so useful. Thank you.
Amazing. So
awesome. Cool. And this actually brings us to an end of our final webinar with Good Job, wrapping up our month of masterclasses. But don't worry, there's still plenty of ways to keep learning and enhancing your job knowledge for your job search as well. So every live webinar has been recorded and will be uploaded to Good Job's YouTube channel. So definitely use them as a reference, use them whenever you like. If you miss anything or want to rewatch something that was super helpful, be sure to check out those recordings. We've also created an all-in-one workbook covering every single webinar. It's interactive and allow you to really explore every aspect of your job search in detail. So that workbook is going to be really cool. We'll be sharing the workbook with Good Job shortly, and they will all share it with you via Telegram or Instagram. Lastly, we want to say thank you so much for joining us with our masterclass series. It's been our privilege to connect with each and every one of you, and we're so inspired by your strength and resilience. From all of us who have been part of this, we want to say a massive, thank you and good luck in your job search. We can't wait to see you out there in the job market using all these skills to land your dream role. We hope to connect with you all again very soon in the future. We'll finish up today's webinar with something we created. It's just some messages from everyone on our team. So thanks so much, everyone, and have a good day.
Hey, good luck on this job hunt. Back yourself and believe in yourself. You've got this.
You are going to be amazing. Enjoy the job seeking adventure and good luck.
Just wanted to wish you the best of luck with your job search. You've got this.
I hope you learned some good insights today, and I wish you all the best in your job search.
Good luck with the job search, everyone. I hope this helped.
We hope that you learned something new from this webinar. Good luck with your job search.
you will do amazing. All the best. Good luck.
Good luck. Be yourself. You've got this.
Thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey. I hope that we're able to provide you with some tips and tricks that are going to help you find your next role.
Thank you so much for those messages. I think I was just like watching them and my tears were coming up as well. That was incredible, Canva. Thank you so much for all the nice words and the encouragement. I'm sure it means so much for everybody watching this. And I think, yeah, this concludes the month of our webinars together. It's been an incredible journey. You have shared so much information with us, and I'm sure that everybody just absolutely loved every single webinar. So thank you so much for that. Very fortunate to have such amazing partners as you, who were willing to educate us, create all this useful material, put so much time and effort into this. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and of course of Good Job and the people who have been watching. We will be uploading the remaining webinars on our YouTube channel shortly, I think within the next several weeks. So please stay tuned on our Telegram channel where all the information will be posted. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Canva. And I wish everybody a good day, and we will be tuning off just in a minute. Feel free to share any comments that you have, guys. Thank you.